This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
I don't know because I turned it off. Oh, I shouldn't have because we were using it for the markets. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Thursday, the 9th of October, 2025. So glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later on in our program, we're going to talk with Jason Meyer of agmarket.net and find out what happened in those grain and livestock markets. But first of all, we're going to talk with Mr. Curtis Ferguson of the Allan Potash Mine up in the Saskatoon area. He is the environmental engineer for both the mine and the mill, though he does mostly work with the mill. We had a chance to talk with him during my trip to Saskatoon a couple of weeks ago, and you're going to hear an interview we did in correlation with one of our sister networks at RFD Illinois and DeLoss Yankee, so that's why you're going to hear another voice in there. But here's what he had to talk about what happens on the mill side and the environmental side of that mine.
You know, what their main focus is, where a place where safety and environmental safety are so important.
Yeah, like for myself, I kind of manage all of the environmental requirements for the mine. So whether it comes down to this, provincial reporting, federal reporting, the tailings management. So anything to do with, because we move such a massive amount of ore from underground into product, there's also, a good chunk of that is the tailings stream. So just, managing that and the brine and making sure that containment is handled and that everything's contained within our footprint that it's supposed to be, and all the farmers around and the surrounding area and land isn't impacted and that kind of thing.
So we're talking about the mill as well as the mine, right? Under your purview.
The majority of what I deal with is on surface, so the surface impacts and whatnot. But air emissions, air quality, testing, our stacks, everything that we do is following environmental best practices and ensuring that that we leave the land, the air, the water as best we can.
And with the scale of the mine, and especially the impact it's having, what kind of work is being done to make sure that there is no environmental impact, or minimal at best, when you're talking about that kind of setup?
Yeah, this place has been around since 1968, and we basically do our best to mitigate that. We've got years and years of sampling and monitoring in place, and overall we're talking about sodium and potassium chloride, which salt isn't the most toxic thing in the world, and so it's all about containing it, making sure that our dust collection systems in the mill are working, making sure that everything is that we're not pumping out big plumes of smoke out of the stacks, and just keeping an eye on all that, making sure everything's running in the way it should.
I would imagine some of the things, whether it's the brine, whether it's whatever it takes to prepare potash for becoming fertilizer. Pipes, rust, corrosion, that sort of thing, considering the volume that you're dealing with, how much do you have to keep things updated and upgraded?
Oh, we've got a really thorough reliability and maintenance team, and there's a big focus on that, on pipe replacement and concrete and steel, everything from the entire foundation up the walls and everything has got scheduled inspections and replacement, and I don't know if you noticed when we were walking through the mill, but the amount of scaffolding built, like the place has literally been rebuilt probably 4 times, and pieces of steel, right? It's just in a constant state of rebuild, and that's what it takes to keep a plant running like that. And we do we do a good job to make sure that it's safe, that it's reliable, and that we're able to run consistently and meet the demands of our customers, which is kind of the goal.
Which includes you, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I farm small farm, 500 acres of mixed grains. This year I grew canola, wheat, Canadian red spring wheat, and lentils. So yeah, I'm a nutrient employee, but also a nutrient customer. So I would say one of the things that I benefit from is seeing the downstream side of the business and how agile it is, how you can get product to field to customers, the service side of it, right? And that's a big part of it in the U.S. for sure, is the service side. And it's interesting to sit back, or in my role, and say, okay, well, once we put that potash in a rail car, it's gone, and we get paid for it and whatever else. But it's interesting to hear other sides of the business saying, okay, all the storage barns in the lower 48 are full and ready for fall application. There's so much logistics involved in just meeting the demand of the customers, and when we know that on-farm storage is what it is, people will utilize it when they can, but you still rely on the logistics to get product out to a variety of people. So it's just the whole scale of things is pretty impressive.
Thanks again to Curtis Ferguson there of the Allan Potash Mine Facility. We're going to take a short break and hear from the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, we are going to get a look at those closing markets. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. We're back on Ag Matters PM, and we're talking right now with Jason Meyer of agmarket.net. Jason, what did we see happen in those markets on this Thursday?
The grain markets were just under a little bit of pressure here. I think, number one, we've seen some strength in the dollar as of recent times here. And then overnight, there's some concern that maybe Trump and President Xi are not going to meet, as was stated earlier in the week. But I think it's a rumor that potentially was used to move the markets here today. But just with the dollar strength, and then a little harvest pressure going on, and concerns about maybe Trump's not going to be meeting with China, I think those are unfounded, but that's kind of what drove the market a little bit lower today.
It is always interesting because, we all know that ag is part of a greater economy. And when the dollar is doing well, it's usually good for the economy, but ag is always the opposite effect on that sometimes, isn't it?
That's true. So you think about it, when we're exporting our commodity, when the dollar is going up, these foreign nations have to come up with more dollars to buy our product.
All right, and then moving over to the livestock side of things, I know cattle was making some good moves again after what had been a little bit of a lull over the last couple of weeks. Are we seeing that trend continue here as we get ready to end up the week? Has there been any cash bids? What are we seeing first off in cattle?
Yeah, feeder cattle, a rocket ship to the moon again here today. Feeder cattle made all-time new record contract highs today. And one could argue, if the government's going to remain shut down for a little longer than maybe we anticipated, that border with Mexico is not going to get opened anytime soon. So that's really led the feeder cattle higher. And the fats is relatively quiet to speak of, but they had a pretty nice day to the upside, kind of following the feeders. Then on the other side of the meat complex, you have hogs who are continuing to get smoked to the downside. Cutout prices on hogs are at 4-month lows here. And then today, technically, we maybe found some support at the 100-day moving average, but definitely a big divergence between pork and beef here today in the marketplace.
Now, maybe I'm just seeing it wrong with the data and stuff, but it seemed like when cattle was having that little bit of pressure on them and a little bit more weight on them, it seemed like hogs was capitalizing on that a little bit. But now as cattle starting to push back higher, that pork is receding a little bit. Is that a correlation, or is it just kind of a coincidence right now?
I think it's just kind of a coincidence right now, and without having any true hard government data, I just think we're seeing some technical trade coming into the marketplace, and we had seen liquidity in the cattle kind of slow or get a little bit smaller. So maybe we're seeing some of these funds come back and buy cattle and maybe sell hogs as a spread trade here.
All right. Well, the government may not be putting out data, but of course, agmarket.net always has data available for folks to look at and get an idea of what's happening in that marketplace, help them make some plans. Jason, if folks want to get some of that intel, talk to you guys and pick your brains a little bit, what's the best way for them to do that?
The easiest way would be to go to our website at agmarket.net, and you can click on our bios and you can talk to anybody that you want to, and we would be happy to speak with you.
All right, Jason Meyer's been our guest here on Ag Matters PM. Jason, thanks so much for the insight. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Dustin. Everybody have a great day now.
Thanks again to Jason Meyer of agmarket.net to give us that closing market analysis. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the numbers closed here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen. At the close, December corn was down 3 3/4 at $4.18 1/4. November beans down 7 1/4 at $10.22 1/4. Soybean meal down $1.10 at $2.7690. Soy oil 54 cents lower at $50.94. Chicago wheat down 3/4 cent at $5.06 1/2. Kansas winter wheat down 3 1/2 at $4.89 3/4. Kansas spring wheat down a nickel at $5.33 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat up 1 1/2. That's at $5.57 even. Oats up 8 1/2 at $2.95 3/4. On the Merck live cattle up $1.17 at $235.02. Feeders up $4.52 at $374.02. Lean hogs down $1.75 at $84.35. Pork cutouts unchanged at $96.80, and Class 3 milk down 18 cents at $17.01. And that's been a check of the closing markets, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com, as well as follow us on Facebook, X, and through our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget, you can get full replays of the Iowa Ag Matters program, also get replays of Weekend Ag Matters, and see our latest Beck's Harvest videos and much more at iowaagnet.com. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Andy Peterson, Mark Magnuson, and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.